But there's no other place to start than this man, Victor Osimhen, and the reports that Arsenal are in talks to sign him this summer. James, what can you tell us?
Well, this is a report that's emerged in the Telegraph this morning from Matt Law, a brilliant journalist based in the UK. And we know that Arsenal and Galatasaray have been speaking about the possibility of Gabriel Martinelli going the other way. Now, it appears there's been wide-ranging conversations between Arsenal, their sporting director, Andrea Berta, and Galatasaray around a potential signing of Victor Osimhen. Now, there's a possible scenario that he's been offered to Arsenal, or there's a scenario whereby Arsenal have asked about his availability. We wait to see what has happened in those talks and whether this progresses into something verging on interest and potentially a bid from Arsenal. And it's the Telegraph's understanding that Galatasaray have an interest in Gabriel Martinelli and Ethan Nwaneri. So very early stages. We know there's been interest in Victor Osimhen from clubs in the Premier League for a long time. We know Arsenal have had an interest in signing a striker in this transfer. We know Julián Alvarez appears to be their main target, but we know Atletico Madrid aren't prepared to let him go for anywhere less than £170 million, around 200 million euros. So potentially, if that's ruled out, Arsenal need to look at other options if they are serious about signing another striker in this transfer window. And here's a man who's a proven goal scorer. Yeah. So we wait to see if anything develops following these talks between Arsenal and Galatasaray. We know the two clubs are talking. We don't know how serious Arsenal are about signing Victor Osimhen in this transfer window. Yeah,
he's often talked about during this period, isn't he? And I mean, is he the guy to unmask Arsenal's? Yes, thank you for laughing at the gag. I'm glad you got it. It's early for that one, but is he the man to unmask their attacking problems?
I think he'll certainly help. He would be a marquee signing. I don't think as big as Vinny Jr., who they were after in the first place. I don't think that deal was ever going to happen. But Victor Osimhen, yeah, he's a proven goal scorer at Napoli, Galatasaray, and now hopefully he can come to England, because there's been a lot of talk about him over many years, linked with all types of clubs, and it's never happened. I think now is the time for that to happen, and he could be the final piece that Arsenal probably need to help Gyökeres really, and help all those creators, Odegaard, Eze, even Bruno now, and he'll be the man to finish all those chances off.
I mean, they are leaving themselves light if they've let Trossard go, and now if they let Martinelli go. But is he an upgrade on what they have there, James, in your opinion?
Well, in terms of the two central striking options, they've got Victor Gyökeres and they've got Kai Havertz. Whether or not he's a striker or a number 8 or a number 10, I don't think anybody will ever be able to get to the bottom of that debate. But here's what Victor Osimhen has done over the course of the last 5 seasons. You look at those goals there, there's a reason why we talk about him in every single transfer window on Sky Sports News. The last 2 seasons there have been in the Turkish Super League, the previous 3 seasons in Serie A with Napoli. So he's a proven goal scorer. You'd argue that the Turkish Super League isn't anywhere close to what the Premier League is, but you can see his body of work there, very, very impressive. We can compare him to Arsenal's other strike options there. Victor Gyökeres scored 14 goals in the Premier League last season. They won the Premier League title, but I think it was a fairly underwhelming campaign from Victor Gyökeres. He didn't start in some of the big games. He didn't score in the big games either. We know Kai Havertz was injured for a large portion of last season, scored in the Champions League final, always pops up with really important goals, whether it be in a Chelsea shirt or in an Arsenal shirt now. And Gabriel Jesus, he's into the final year of his contract. We know there's interest from Napoli in signing him in this transfer window. But you can see Victor Osimhen there, 15 goals from 22 matches last season. His injury record isn't incredible. He's not available for every single match, which is something which Arsenal may have to weigh up. They had 63 matches in all competitions last season. They need their strikers fully fit, and with the issues that Kai Havertz has suffered over recent seasons, they don't want to be signing a player who's not going to be available for every match. But that's how Osimhen stacks up against the other Arsenal forwards. And you think last season, going back to what we saw in the last campaign, Gyökeres scored 14 goals. The next top scorer was 7. I think it was Saka who got 7 goals. And the fact they won the Premier League title is remarkable when you think they didn't have a goal scorer scoring 20 goals. The goals weren't shared around. They dominated when it came to set pieces, as we know. This season, they'll try and be more progressive, you'd think. And if Osimhen is available for a good fee, the wages will be something that Arsenal will need to consider, because that was one of the discussions when it came to Vinicius Jr. If his wages were going to be north of £400,000 and you made him the best paid player at the club, what impact would that have on the dressing room? Is that a factor that Arsenal need to be aware of potentially if they're bringing in a player who's being very heavily paid above some of his teammates?
Yeah, it could be, but if he goes on to score 20, 25 goals and wins in the Premier League, I don't think anyone cares. I mean, the lads there, obviously Bruno's gone in and probably a high earner, Declan Rice, but they proved it. And I think if players want to see world-class players come into the dressing room and they're only going to help them, I don't think there should be too much of an issue. There's not too much difference really from the highest to the middle earners. And he's a world-class proven striker. And strikers always get paid the most as well.
Today, that Arsenal were being linked with Victor Osimhen. Now, if we kind of dig deep into the story, first of all, we know that Galatasaray, the club that he plays for, they made an inquiry about Gabriel Martinelli and were reportedly put a bid in of around about £38 million, which we discussed extensively on the show yesterday, which I found a bit insulting when you consider how much Martinelli is truly worth. And that was rejected by Arsenal. But as part of those negotiations and talks that were going on between the two clubs, Arsenal then asked Galatasaray about Victor Osimhen, wanted to find out if he's available, wanted to find out how much it would cost. Now, we don't know yet what the situation is. Have Galatasaray said, absolutely no way, we're not selling him? They won't want to sell him because they've previously rejected an offer that came in from Saudi for over £111 million. They rejected that offer, so they definitely don't want to sell Victor Osimhen. So have they rejected this offer out of hand? But also Victor Osimhen, there are reports that he would be very, very open to a move to Arsenal. Maybe he didn't want to move to Saudi Arabia yet, but he'd be very open to a move to Arsenal. And could this one be one of those that sort of rumble on close to the transfer window? Now, it's interesting because we know that Arsenal are really after a left winger. Victor Osimhen is an out-and-out striker. He's not really a left winger. He's an out-and-out striker. We know that Arsenal are trying to sell Jesus. But that would be interesting if you've got Victor Osimhen, Victor Gyökeres, the two Victors. Then you've also got Kai Havertz. And also, don't forget, we've got Mikel Merino, who I presume, with the amount of midfielders we got, is also going to be kind of playing as a striker this season. So very interesting that Arsenal are interested in Victor Osimhen. It'll be a lot of money. He's valued at around about £75 million. But as I said, an offer came in for £111 million. I think that was from Al Hilal over there in Saudi. And that was turned down by Galatasaray. So this, out of the blue, this one. Out of the blue and really, really interesting. It's got everybody talking. He scored 22 goals in all competitions last season. That's a goal more than what Victor Gyökeres scored in all comps. And as I said, he's won the league in Italy, he's won the league in Turkey. Interesting one to watch, but Victor Osimhen today heavily linked with a move to Arsenal and said to be open to a move, although Galatasaray really won't want to sell him. The other striker, of course, that Arsenal are still showing a lot of interest in is Julián Alvarez of Atletico Madrid. Team talk saying that Arsenal are monitoring his situation closely. This one's going to be one that's really interesting going up to the transfer window. There's reports that Diego Simeone and the club have already spoken to him and said, no, we are not selling you to Barcelona. They've made that very, very clear. However, there are other reports say that they would be open, if they are to selling him abroad. That is the only place they're selling, but they're not going to sell him to a direct rival in Barcelona. Arsenal watching the situation, again, one that could go to the transfer window, one to definitely keep an eye on.
For most of this summer, Alvarez was the clear number one. Arsenal sporting director Andrea Berta, who worked with him at Atletico, was reportedly holding direct conversations with his camp, and there was genuine belief Arsenal could get a deal done. But two things have gotten in the way. First, Alvarez has made his own preference known, and it isn't Arsenal. Reports consistently describe Barcelona as his dream destination, with him wanting to compete for the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or, specifically in Catalonia. Second, and more decisively, Atletico's valuation has reportedly climbed as high as €200 million, north of £170 million. Even Real Madrid's rumoured €150 million offer is being read by some as nothing more than a pressure tactic aimed at pushing Atletico's price even higher for whoever actually wants to buy him. That's a genuinely enormous number for a player who, by his own admission, would rather be somewhere else entirely. So, enter Osimhen, and this is where the story gets interesting, because multiple reports now suggest he's overtaken Alvarez as Arteta's actual top priority. According to journalist Sebastian Dennis, Arsenal are, in his words, charging towards Osimhen, describing it as a top priority request directly from Arteta himself, with the club convinced they can get a deal done before the window closes. The Telegraph adds important context too. These conversations with Galatasaray reportedly started because the Turkish club showed interest in Gabriel Martinelli and Ethan Nwaneri, and Osimhen's name entered the discussion from there. Whether Arsenal or Galatasaray raised it first isn't entirely clear. Let's actually compare what each player brings, because the traits matter here as much as the price tag. Osimhen's biggest advantage is the one thing that can't really be taught: a proven, consistent goal-scoring record. He put up 32 goals on loan at Galatasaray in his first season there, then followed it with 22 goals and 8 assists across 33 appearances last term. Alvarez is a brilliant, versatile forward, but his numbers, while good, don't match that level of pure, relentless output. Osimhen also brings genuine physical presence, strong in the air, a real weapon at set pieces on both ends of the pitch. Exactly the kind of profile that tends to translate well into the physical demands of the Premier League.